the Rams coming back to Los Angeles, there's a lot of push, and there'll be a lot of activity on the West Coast. And I know you talk about Fisher and the negotiating his contract, and some of these great coaches you talked about, from Al Davis, even the great Bill Walsh, Jimmy Johnson. When he built the Cowboys, I think his first season, he was 1-15, but he turned that team around, and they went to 3 Super Bowls. But he did it not necessarily through the draft, but he traded for great players. And I just see some of that seems to be missing right now. They're trying to get the guy that was on ESPN the most, Big C. And when you talk about the history of how Jimmy Johnson had a mantra, he said, I want guys who can play. And I think for all the players that are coming up under the draft, one player that I would say is a can't miss. He's a running back out of Ohio State. Ezekiel Elliott reminds me a lot, and I'll get your thoughts on this, on the great Archie Griffin. Also kind of similar to Eddie George. And then even Beanie Wells, 3 great running backs out of Ohio State. This guy's durable. He's dependable. When he touches the ball about 20 times, he's almost guaranteeing you 120 yards. He's someone you spend a lot of money on, but not these quarterbacks that have to sit the bench for 3 years, Big C.
Well, you get a running back. And, the NFL has been known for burning out running backs. But Ezekiel Elliott has been a workhorse at the University of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Coming into the season, everyone was thinking that Leonard Fournette was hands down going to be the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden, the kid Henry out of Alabama.
Patrick Henry,
Ezekiel Elliott went under the radar. He is a slashy runner. He reminds me the most, though, of Doug Martin down with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, running back out of Boise State.
Yes.
When you look at them, they have a quite similar running style. But, Elliott's a little bigger than Martin. I think he's a back that can come in and get you 12 to 1,400 yards a year in the NFL in the right system. But wherever he goes in the NFL, he's going to make that offense better because he's a complete player.
Yes.
He knows how to block already. He's played with Urban Meyer under his scheme at Ohio State.
Yes.
So he knows the run and pass game as well. So he's going to be a great player in the NFL.
Well, when you think about, you just brought up a great point because, the great Archie Griffin, great running backs out of college like O.J. Simpson, Marcus Allen. When you think about guys like Earl Campbell that came out of Texas, there's a running back that not too many people talk about. But because he's not a rookie, he's a veteran player. Lamar Miller just got a 4-year, $26 million deal to play for the Houston Texans. They just acquired him from Miami. But the last I saw, Miami was not even in the playoffs last year, Big C.
Lamar Miller, I think, gained about 900 yards, Charlton, and playing in that system and going down to Houston. Now you have Brock Osweiler and Lamar Miller.
Yeah.
But who are they going to try to get their attention on? So Brock Osweiler is going to have to be throwing the football. He didn't go down there to hand off the football. They're not giving him $37 million hey, have us a running back gain 1,700 yards. We want to see you pass for at least 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. Now, we saw Osweiler have the hiccup last year after 5 games where he couldn't get over the hump anymore. Now, he had a veteran, solid offense in Denver, Charlton.
Yes.
Now he's going to have to go to Houston and try to get used to some players that he haven't played with.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with a lot of free agency, there's no continuity starting the season off in Denver. In Houston.
In Houston. When you think about that, too, when you think about that, they're trying to build him as the next Peyton Manning. And we talked about Peyton Manning and his greatness from Indianapolis all the way to the Denver Broncos, 12th quarterback to win multiple Super Bowls, 5-time MVP award, 14-time Pro Bowl player, 7-time first-team All-Pro, and 27 career playoff games. And you would think he would be the guy that they would be talking about with the kind of money they're throwing at Osweiler. And it seems like, I know you're old school, Big C, and you cover a lot of East Coast sports, but when you think about quarterbacks that are worth a lot of money, I think about guys like Dan Fouts under Air Coryell when they had the Chargers and they had...
You couldn't afford to pay Dan Fouts nowadays. Air Coryell, Dan Fouts was the first quarterback in the NFL to throw for 4,000 yards consistently in 4 consecutive seasons.
Yes.
And you're not going to find it. When we talk about Osweiler, though, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Cliff Stout, and not many people are going to remember Cliff Stout. Cliff Stout was Terry Bradshaw's backup when Terry Bradshaw got hurt.
That's good
in
knowledge.
1983.
That's good knowledge.
In Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Cliff Stout had been on the roster 3 years. Cliff Stout had a chance to start.
Yeah.
They went through that season and did not make the playoffs because Cliff Stout, all he was used to being was a viewer. And so when he got out there and he had live bullets every day that he had to play against on Sunday, he just couldn't produce. And I'm seeing that same type of thing with the Brock Osweiler, the same type of quarterback, 6'7",
yeah,
240 pounds, not mobile. So a lot of people will tee off on it.
Well, I think that's very true. And this segment is also sponsored by your Ford dealership of Northern California. Go test drive the Ford F-150, the most dependable truck that Ford has built. Tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, as we think about the passing game, and I know you really brought a lot of light to the table when you talk about $100 million quarterbacks. There's one down in the South, Matt Ryan, $100+ million quarterback. Now, I know they don't have Roddy Wright anymore as a receiver, but the Falcons, they have Mohamed Sanu out of Cincinnati. They traded from the Bengals a 5-year, $32.5 million. Is that going to help Ryan at all, or is Ryan a little bit overrated? I don't think he's done anything since they lost the NFC playoff game at home to the 49ers a few years ago, Colin Kaepernick's team.
A little overrated. You know, you talk about Colin Kaepernick being pushed out of town. Matt Ryan has one playoff victory in his career. Matt Ryan right now is in the fourth year of a $126 million contract.
Wait a minute. Before you even go there, I want you to reiterate that again, because even just bringing up the name Matt Ryan, and they're throwing a big receiver at Matt Ryan, but the last time he was in the NFC playoff game, he was beaten out by Colin Kaepernick on the road and the 49ers. Now, the irony there, Big C, you talked about it before, one guy they're pushing out of town, and another guy, they're putting more receivers to help him win. You would think that Ryan would be the one they're trying to run out of town.
He's being embraced. Not only that, they just signed Mack, the center out of Cleveland, all-pro center.
Yeah.
They got Sanu out of Cincinnati. They've constantly brought in people around him trying to make him better. So if you keep supplying him with great tools in the NFL, he doesn't get any better. And he only had 6 victories last year, and the year before that he had 4. So if Colin Kaepernick only has 4 victories and he's being run out of town, but Matt Ryan gets 4 victories and he's being embraced as the next great slice of bread in the NFL. So there's that double standard. You can go out and win 4, 5, 6 games as a $100 million quarterback, and it's okay. But you can take a team to the Super Bowl and to the NFC Championship game in the following year as an African-American quarterback, and you're being run out of town and you lose your job.
Well, when you think about the quarterbacks and the race issue, I know there was a time going back in the day when people don't want to talk about it, and I know Al Davis did a lot to bridge the leagues, but they wanted to take the great black athletes and make them, if they were quarterbacks, they wanted to make them a wide receiver or even a defensive back, and I heard the great...
Charlton, you talk about Al Davis. Al Davis was the Raiders were the first organization to draft a black quarterback in the first round. In 1966, he drafted a quarterback named Derek Dickey in the first round, who was the first African-American quarterback drafted in the first round by the Oakland Raiders, wore number 10.
Well, that's amazing because Al Davis was a Maverick. And see, I'm glad you brought that up because I heard one commentator, only one outside of us, that said some of the issue with Colin Kaepernick in the Bay Area is because of race. But they've only had 3 quarterbacks that took their team to the Super Bowl, and he's one of them. But I know that we don't want to talk about that too much in the public. A lot of people have those behind-the-door conversations. But I just think about what you just said, and when I see the fact that he's done nothing wrong other than lose a coach who was a great mentor for quarterbacks, and now Chip Kelly seems to like him, even though they're saying he has to compete with Gabbert for the job. I just wonder why that's still a hush-hush issue with the color of the quarterback. Because you mentioned Ryan, he's not worth $100+ million, but there's no pushback whatsoever. Not even Drew Brees.
What did the Detroit Lions done with Matthew Stafford, who was the number 1 overall draft pick, just like Ryan? Ryan and Stafford both were number 1 overall draft picks. Stafford has never won a playoff game. Matt Ryan has only won 1 playoff game. And these guys are back-to-back years, number 1 overall draft picks in the NFL. So what's the standard? If, you're a certain quarterback, you can be drafted, you can have a long, financially rewarding career, but you don't have to have any productivity. But you get a handful of minority quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're always under the microscope, regardless of what goes on. We look at Joe Flacco, yes. He won a Super Bowl against Colin Kaepernick, but he hasn't done anything since. He's only been the 26th rated quarterback in the NFL. So you're rated 26 and you get $66 million guaranteed. 26th ranked quarterback in the NFL a week and a half ago got $66 million guaranteed, just like you have with a Brock Osweiler, who's won 5 games. 5 games. And next year, this upcoming season, he has $37 million guaranteed from the Houston Texans. And we talked about it a couple of days ago. Chase Daniels, been in the NFL 6 years, had to throw one of the greatest touchdown passes in NFL history because he only has 1 touchdown pass. He got $7 million from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, that's amazing. I got a friend request from Stephen A. Smith on my Facebook page, and I know he talks so much about the real side of sports and the real side of business, and how sometimes they're just handing out money like handshakes. You know, a player that's missing.
Like Skittles. This ain't handshakes. It's Skittles. He's just throwing stuff out there. You know, it's like spaghetti. Throw it on the wall, and that's what free agency is in the NFL. You just throw it on the wall, and you hope you make the right decision because there's no geniuses sitting in any GM's office in the NFL. It's all about pure luck and keeping people healthy. If there was a crystal ball about who can make a great organization in professional football, it's already been done. It's been done by Chuck Noll when he was with the Steelers. It was done by Bill Walsh when he was with the 49ers. And it's been done by Bill Belichick. Everybody else has just been a turkey shoot. They've been guessing. Let me throw one more name in there. Jimmy Johnson when he was with the Cowboys.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson. You're right. Definitely. They definitely knew how to win. And speaking of winning, this segment is brought to you by BMW. Go see your Northern California BMW dealers. Test drive the ultimate driving machines. If you like a car that's futuristic, you have to see the i8. Beautiful vehicle. Go test drive it. Tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, as we transition in the last few minutes of the program, I know we talk so much about sports and everybody loves NFL football, but I think something great happened last night in Los Angeles. That's when Kobe Bryant and the great LeBron James, the Cavaliers beat the Lakers 120-108. LeBron James scored 24 points, and Kobe Bryant hit for 26. He was 11-16 shooting last night. Now, I know, Big C, you're more of a team guy, but that's old school. Like some of the Havliceks or some of the Jabbars, they thought about team ball the same way you do. But now it's more of a me, it's a kind of a me era. Your thoughts again on LeBron James and Kobe Bryant? They never met in a championship game like Bird and Johnson did. But just what does that mean to you as an old school player to see these two great guys going head to head for the final time?
Well, Charles, I don't know if it's old school or new school. And I'm still trying to define what's the difference between the old school and new school. There's an era that we all play in as players and fans who watch the game. It is the players of that time that you have the ability to sit back and enjoy. You know, Kobe, during the heyday of his career, and I can't say he was old school because he came in during the heyday of his career. And he was surrounded by some great athletes that helped him win championships. LeBron had that same scenario when he went down to Miami. But when you look at the players now are more media-driven and motivated. It's not always about what you do as a team. So when we talk about team concepts, it's about what you can do to get on SportsCenter more than anything else. Players are living trying to make the highlight play. The highlight play will come regardless. There's only going to be a couple of them in a game. And ESPN is not going to cover your whole game in SportsCenter. So when we sit back and look at old school and new school, as people want to call it these days, it's about great competitors going out performing night in, night out. That's not old school. That's not new school. That's athletics. That's what you do. As an athlete, you go out looking for the optimal performance. And when you're a team sport, you got to know how to get all your teammates involved. And so when you got a point guard who was going out getting double-digit assists, remember Steve Nash who played with Phoenix?
Definitely.
Steve Nash twice as a point guard, only 6'1", 2-time MVP in the NBA. Why? Because he facilitated through his position. Just think if Russell Westbrook passed the ball like a Steve Nash. How great a player would he be? Well, the last time the Boston Celtics, Charlton, won a championship, Rajon Rondo was a team player.
Wow, that's true.
He looked to give assists, and that's what Boston got from him. Being a point guard was facilitating, passing off assists to teammates. not sitting out there trying to knock down 20 points from the perimeter, Charles.
Well, point also, Doc Rivers was the coach back then. Thinking of old school, you had to be a team player. If not, they didn't have you. And just a few more scores around the NBA as we close out. The Spurs 109-101 over the Chicago Bulls. Kawhi Leonard, another stellar